Mr. Kosa, hello and welcome to Europol TV. My first question would be, 80 million people are considered as disabled people today in the EU. This means 60% of the EU population. Which is the situation today for these people? How would you describe this? Which are the problems they face every day?
Hello, thank you for the invitation to be here. Of the 80 million disabled people in Europe, I see the largest issue is accessibility to services. I think this is the major barrier for people with disabilities. If services were accessible to all people, not just disabled people, that would solve the issue.
Today there's a big word called the European Disability Strategy 2020. It asks to consider disabled people in all EU legislation. How would you like to do this, make this feasible, in fact?
My opinion is the first step that we have to face is addressing the 10-year disability strategy. I think that's important for all citizens. Secondly, we are looking at the possibility of disabled people without having a strategy in place for them. If we don't, their lives will be hindered greatly. Thirdly, I don't think the responsibility lies directly with the Council or the European Commission. I believe responsibility has to be held at a national level, where laws can be implemented at a national level as they are at the European level. I think that's where the biggest issue lies.
We're talking about competitiveness. Where should the money come from? And how do you evaluate the amount of money to pay to develop a real EU policy for disabled people?
During this financial period, this 7-year period, I think a lot of money has been allocated towards the topic of disability. So I think that's something that we need to see again in the future with the structural funds, the European Social Fund. It's very important that this aspect is funded. I also don't think that this is an issue solely for the poorer countries of the European Union. I believe many sectors are impacted. So funding needs to be available for the so-called richer countries as well as those that are regarded as poorer countries.
To have a real EU policy, you need first of all money, but you have to impose things. We're talking about EU policy for disabled people since a long time. Why should it today be something really working more than in the past?
One aspect, I think, is since my election as a member of the European Parliament, I've been able to bring a new message and a new vision of what it's like to be disabled. We have to remember that the population of Europe is 500 million, and it's an ageing population. And the services that are available for disabled people are also very useful for the aged. So I think the European Council, the Commission and national governments need to look at such services that are available to all, not just those with disabilities.
Just to finish, a little technical question, but also an employment question. Could you tell me how many sign languages there are if you talk normally Hungarian? Is there a specific Hungarian language, or would we need, like my colleague here, 22, 23 different interpreters? Would this be also a possibility of new employment, at least in EU institutions? How does it work?
In fact, there are 27 different sign languages in EU member states. My mother tongue is Hungarian Sign Language. My second language, I would say, is Hungarian. Third, English, and so on. Right now, I'm communicating using International Sign, which is not a language as such. It's a way in which people can communicate across different languages.
So How do you say goodbye in Hungarian and goodbye in English, for example?
Well, I can say in Hungarian it's this, but other different sign languages would use other signs. I'm asking the interpreter if she knows the sign for goodbye in English. Well, it appears it's the same, but in Italy this is ciao, so each country has their own sign.
Okay, so Mr. Kosa, goodbye.